Hey guys, from Legend 95, recording live from the Look County Prison Cell. It's been a minute, but I'm here to get you a matchup that I've been working on for a little bit of time, to be honest. As in, it's been in the back of my head for a while I had to do other things instead of this. So this is Adam Taurus from Ruby versus Ramattra from Overwatch. So I'm gonna try to not insert my personal feelings about Ruby into the episode. Anybody who's watched a lot of my past Ruby episodes knows that I've developed something of an opinion on the series and the company that produces it. But let's try to keep that out of things. As for both of these characters, I think I have tried to put Adam in a fight before. I put him against what was it, Amon from Korra, and then I realized that there was probably a better Amon fight in Stain from My Hero Academia. So this would be Adam's. This would be the proper Adam fight. I'm still gonna keep that episode up because it's a cool, it's still a cool concept. It's still something we can, we can look into, but I don't like getting rid of ideas just because I think I found a better one. But yeah, I think this is probably the best Adam fight. And I think it's probably the best Ramattra fight too, just because they're both. I mean, maybe we can get another character that's more similar to Ramattra than Adam, but I don't know. Yeah, I think this is probably it. But yeah, the idea is that they're both these, leaders fighting for peace slash revenge. Using violence as a or using peace as a justification for violence, etc., etc. Both fighting against humans specifically after having been wronged by humans. Yeah, I think it fits perfectly. So going into this, let me start with Adam, just because, again, Ruby breakdown a little easier to go through. So Adam is a Faunus, and not only is he a Faunus, he was a Faunus during a time where the Faunus were not treated. I mean, the idea is that they're never really being treated completely fairly, but they're they were like treated unfairly enough to the point where they would be killed on sight, even in their homeland. uh, so he personally was a victim of very vicious attacks from you know uh, prejudiced humans. So he took it upon himself then to punish humanity in using the White Fang, which a former ally of his, Blake's father, um, using the White Fang that they had already established as a, peaceful protest organization, he decided to use them and basically form them into a full-on, domestic terrorist organization. So, yeah, and of course that you don't just lead the White Fang without being able to defend yourself. So he has that covered. Of course, he has the trademark aura, which in most characters in Ruby is strong enough to withstand, tremendous attacks like sword, like sword strikes, gunshots, um, but he also uh, has a very handy semblance. It's not, as it was brought up, was not too dissimilar from Yang's, where he's able to absorb energy or absorb attacks basically. And unlike Yang, though, who I think just keeps the energy permanently, Adam stores it and releases it, when it's chosen, and then it gets rid of it. Now you might say, well, that sounds inherently worse than Yang's. Well, the difference is Adam doesn't have to actually physically take the hit. He can channel, he can store this energy uh, if an object he's holding is hit, right? Such as his weapon, or weapons, quote unquote, wilt and blush. Now, I believe blush is the sword, so I'm gonna say that, but Wilt and Blush is a sword scabbard combo, and he goes full Jetstream Sam with it, where he launches this, where like the scabbard has a trigger on it that can launch the sword outward, um, allowing him for a faster strike, but also he can launch the sword at you and whatnot and do some cool combos with that. And he can also hit, the scabbard also makes a good blunt force weapon. Um, and his proficiency with this is probably up there with most other, incredibly dangerous Ruby characters. And he's gotten some feats in for better or for worse. But the strength of his semblance really does allow him to do things that are like kind of insane. Like again, one-shotting Yang's aura and severing her arm, and as was established on the Yang versus Tifa episode, Yang's aura is strong enough to survive being smashed through a concrete pillar and being launched into the air at Mach 10, which, and it was the equivalent of like what 50 planes landing on you or something at once, and he was able to break it in one shot and sever her arm, and he was also able to, after absorbing a laser like a laser from a like a weapons robot, he was able to completely disintegrate it, like not break it, like it turned to dust, uh, like ashes, not like dust. The ruby energy, yeah. So clearly, this is like a very useful and powerful power up that just takes some time in a fight in order to build up. But I mean, clearly it doesn't take that much, as he can absorb one really strong attack or block it. And again, he's fast enough to deflect bullets or react to a laser. So clearly, his blocking has doesn't have really much to be desired. Now going on to Ramattra, who I know a little bit less about, but I'll try my best here. As I said, I'm Overwatch. It's kind of hard to look into lore unless you play the game just constantly. So Ramattra is an Omnic in the same vein as Zenyatta, but he's kind of like the Malcolm X to Zenyatta's Mahatma Gandhi, in the sense that he believes that simply defense only is not a realistic way to achieve peace, and the most effective way to do it is by taking it. So he leads, I guess, the equivalent of a militia or guerrilla army um, of Omnics against humanity, not necessarily for the sake of overthrowing humanity or destroying them, but more so just forcibly taking peace by force. Um, so, and again, you need to be able to back that up, which he has it covered. He's arguably one of the best tanks in Overwatch 2, from what I've been told. I haven't really been keeping up with the metagame that much, but um, he's able to kind of switch between a zoner tank role by having two different forms. His first form is his Omnic form, where he uses a staff that allows him to control nanobots. Well, he can kind of, I guess, himself inherently control nanobots, or at least create nanobots that he can control. But he doesn't really use them in any sort of cool, like takeover technology kind of way. He really just kind of uses them as micro attack drones and like rocks, more or less, such as the point with his Void Accelerator attack, which sounds really cool, like he's opening up a black hole and like shooting you through it, but he's really just shooting nanobots at you. And again, they don't like do anything cool, like latch onto you and turn you into a robot or anything. They just kind of hit you and do damage. Then there's his Void Barrier, which is standard energy shield for Overwatch. But the difference between his is that his shield doesn't have to actually go in front of him. He can kind of pick and choose where he puts it. And then he has what's known as his Nemesis form, where he gives up the staff and he gives up all those secondary abilities to just become a big hulking robot. This robot is very heavily armored in the front, to the point where it, by blocking, you can actually prevent 75% of frontal damage, but it actually isn't very well defended from behind, and it's actually strong enough that when it punches, it creates mini shockwaves that act as kind of close range projectiles. But other than that, it's just a really big, hit hard robot. And in both forms, he has access to, definitely by design, his most two powerful abilities. The first one being his Ravenous Vortex, which is kind of like a gravity well that, again, is set to a specific location. He can choose where he puts it, and then when he launches it, that area is under the effects of it. It's a storm of nanobots that not only physically slow you down and weigh you down, which I think is due to gravity. They're creating like a gravity field that forcibly, intensifies the gravity of the area, but it also does cause you damage slowly while you're there. It does have a time limit. I think it's like a 10-second duration or something. But in a game like Overwatch, 10 seconds is like, that's a life there. And then the second is Annihilation. Now, Annihilation is sort of similar in the sense that it does, continuous damage. However, it is only in his vicinity, but it is a massive circle surrounding him that anyone in that vicinity is just bombarded by nanobots, and it just continuously eats away at their health until they eventually die. He can still move and attack in this. It just creates a giant area of effect where it's very dangerous for anyone else that's not an ally to be in there. With all these skills, he's one of the main villains in Overwatch, so I mean, it makes sense that he'd be up there in power level. Now, going into this fight, again, leaving what I feel about either character behind. I think Adam has two very distinct advantages. One is his speed. Like I said, he's, capable of killing a boxcar full of robots in a, fraction of a second. He's able to, deflect bullets. He's able to block a laser, which would put him at probably, near light speed in terms of reaction time. So he's just very, and Ramattra, like I said, is a zoning character. He's not very fast on his feet. He's not slow necessarily, but but he's also not very good close up in his omnic form, right? And when you're dealing with someone who can deflect bullets, like shooting, nanobots at them, I think it's at a rate of like 10 per second or something. That's not even really something worth considering. Now, in his omnic form, he's a little better defended, and he's capable of taking on Adam up close. Problem is, his omnic form is a slow, big target, which Adam's speed will let him eat alive. Also, Adam's aura. Now, Ramattra is, again, assuming that he can connect a blow to Adam, being fast enough, he's going to have to fight through Adam's aura. He does have the perfect tools to do it. Annihilation would be great at slowly eating away at Adam's aura, and Ravenous Vortex would actually deal with Adam's speed for an amount of time, to let Ramattra get some hits in. But the problem with that is those moves are moves that require charging time and cooldown times. So he can't really depend on them the entirety of the fight. He can maybe and also, like I said, Annihilation's a little better in the sense that, Adam can't get close to him without being under its effects, but Ravenous Vortex he has to actually hit Adam with. He might be able to catch him off guard, because, Adam is a very spiteful and kind of self-righteous character, so he might catch him monologuing and then hit him with Gravity Well or something, but he's not going to be able to one-shot Adam with these. And unfortunately, the longer this fight goes, this would have to be a war of attrition for Ramattra to win, and the longer this fight goes, the more it favors Adam, because the more attacks he blocks, the stronger his charge up is going to be. And if he, you know, absorbs enough energy, he's just going to be able to one shot Ramattra. I mean, yeah, okay, he's got a form. He can block in his Nemesis form, which lets him block 75+% of frontal damage. That's frontal damage only. It's very easily exploitable. Adam could just sneak behind him. That's not like a required knowledge thing. You can literally see that the back isn't protected. And secondly, yeah, okay, it blocks a bunch of damage, but Adam also broke Yang's aura in one hit. So, like, what are the scope of things we're dealing with? Yeah, okay, you can block attacks from Overwatch characters, but I'm not saying Ruby characters are inherently stronger than Overwatch characters or anything. I'm just saying, like, you can block, missiles and really strong punches and hammer shots and everything. Or you can, but Adam's dealing with, like I said, the equivalent of, like, buildings falling on top of you. So he's hitting you with that kind of power. So, I think he's probably capable of breaking through the Nemesis form, is what I'm saying, while it's blocking. Yeah, and but even if for it to get to that point, Adam would have to give Ramattra a chance to, like, stay, you know what I mean? Stay away from him and keep attacking him, whereas it's just not really that, he's not really catered to it. In order for, like I said, in order for Ramattra to win, he would have to rely on his special moves, and Adam's just too fast to allow him to do that, to let him keep recharging them. So I think eventually Adam's just going to cut him down. So, yeah. And before anyone says I'm really favoring Adam, my only thing that might consider me to be an Adam defender is the fact that I think they completely wasted the character. I know I said I wasn't going to complain about Ruby, but here we are. I think they spent so much time. I think they spent so little time, um, developing him, and instead used him as a way to develop Blake, and then everyone hated him, so they made him a stalker, basically, and kind of were telling you to hate him. Which, if there's one if there's one thing I like less than a character I hate, it's a character that I'm told to hate. Um, and that's not going to make me like the character less. That's going to make me like your show less. So, and then when they didn't have any use for him after, Blake and Yang have their big triumphant moment, they kill him off. So, complete, misuse of a character that had some potential and had some good build up. But that's all I'm going to say about it. So anyway, I think Adam wins here. And I'm very glad I was able to get this done in a sort of timely manner. So anyway, Purple Ninja 95. See ya.